And finally, ground vehicles. A day devoted to ground vehicles, which in the current state of the game may not seem all that important, but in the future they could be pretty integral to our gameplay. All right, so we've got 4 ground vehicles up on the screen. There are some other ones as well, but these are the main 4 or the main 4 types that I kind of want to talk about. Of course, you got the big, slow, hard-hitting tank. You got the APC right underneath it. Next to that, you got basically the Jeep with the gun on the rear. And then you've got the Drake Dragonfly standing in for all the other space bikes, but at the same time, it is the only one that can carry cargo, hopefully someday. So that has a certain value, obviously, in a mission. Now, missions in their current state don't really necessitate ground vehicles. And, some people might say, oh, well, they should do that and they should integrate that into the game. We're not there yet. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. And this isn't a dig on CIG at all, because obviously they kind of got their plates full right now. So I think it's fair to say, just extend a little understanding in this department. It is an area that is unfortunate because in general, for a game developer, you kind of want to aim a little bit low and then give the players things rather than aim too high and then have to take things away from players generally. And so if you kind of get people used to the idea of going down and doing ground missions, you just go in, walk through the front door, pick up the package, toss it on your ship. You're gone, you're done. That can train players into a way of doing things that you don't want them to have, a level of convenience that perhaps you don't want them to get used to. So that is kind of the unfortunate side of the system right now, is people might get trained into this idea, but we know from way back and the Pathfinder demo that there are going to be certain areas in the game where you simply just can't fly your ship right to the mission location and then go do the mission. Now, these might be much more complicated missions, much more involved missions, obviously missions that we haven't seen yet, but what they're going to entail, what they're going to involve, we don't know, because once again, haven't seen them yet. So it's very difficult to kind of make a call when it comes to ground vehicles because you're not sure what you're going to need. I mean, maybe the tank is right. Maybe, the Jeep is going to be the best thing ever. Maybe it's going to be the APC, and maybe it's just going to be the Drake Dragonfly. Just sneak in with the bike, boom, grab the package, toss it on the bike, and get out of there. And it may depend on you, the user, how you want to go about the mission. Do you want to do it sneakier? Do you want to do it big and loud with the tank? And who you have with you and what you enjoy. I think those are going to be some really strong, determining factors when it comes to these vehicles. I would say the safe bet. The safe bet is just, if you're a solo player, just get a space bike. Drake Dragonfly kind of is the default choice because it's also the one that can carry cargo eventually. And so I think that that's probably a good idea. A tank, we don't know yet. I mean, the tanks are not built, so you're basically buying a JPEG right now, and you're saying one day. The Cyclone TR, which I believe it's the TR. It's whichever. The Cyclone with the gun on it. That, of course, is something that's drivable now. The Ursa Rover is drivable now. So there's a fair selection of currently usable ground vehicles. I believe the Ursa Rover does require a second person to operate the turret, much like the TR. So there is that. There is a little bit of group gameplay that may come into that. I would say it's not a bad idea, but think about the ship that you're using. Can it carry one of these vehicles? Because chances are maybe you're flying a ship that could only carry a Dragonfly, or at least one reliably. I would be a little bit skeptical of the idea that, when you see these videos of people shoehorning, oversized vehicles into cutlasses and things like that, that's going to remain without doing damage to the ship, that's probably just kind of the uncomplicated way that the game works right now, and in the future that might involve a certain amount of personal cost doing something like that. I don't think it's a bad idea to own a ground vehicle, but I think that you should probably have a really big, honest moment with yourself and say, what ships do I own? What can they transport? Yeah, the tank seems like a good idea, but then again, that might make me reliant on somebody who has a vehicle that can drop that tank if I don't currently own that vehicle. Now, if you do own that vehicle, if you do own something like a Starlifter, maybe having a tank or two isn't a bad idea. If you want to be the guy who drops ground forces and you want to be like a complete package to your org. I've got the tanks, I've got the ship. Just bring the people to me and I'll give them what they need and we can get the mission done, that sort of thing. Maybe that's the way you want to go about it. But if you're a solo player, maybe the Drake Dragonfly is more your speed. Now, it's very difficult to say what's going to be good where and what kind of missions you're going to run into. I mean, like, oh, you're going to have this mission and you're going to need a tank for that and that sort of thing. You can't really tell, but what you can tell from all these images is that CIG's vision for ground combat, not just missions, but ground combat between players, is pretty grand. And they have a lot of ambition in this department as to what they want to achieve. And there's going to be a certain kind of feeling that a lot of players are probably going to be going through, which is, I'm missing out. Oh no, here's this opportunity to get this thing, and now I'm missing out on it, and they may panic buy something. I would say, in all honesty, as much as I hate to say it, I would hold off on ground vehicles. I would kind of, if you're going to get something, get a Drake Dragonfly, get something, cheap and cheerful, and just wait and see how things shake out. Wait and see how things develop on that front. See what is really needed. I mean, I have a Cyclone on a buyback token, the Jeep, just in case. I have one of those on LTI. And I basically, it's sitting there kind of just, if I need it, I can, get it back and then perhaps turn it into something more ambitious. But right now, I'm waiting to see how things shake out and waiting to see what's really going to be something that is the most broadly applicable to the most type of missions. I, of course, have a Dragonfly, so in the meantime, I have something that's serviceable, that's usable, but I would wait. I would wait and see how this develops and wait and see what you end up doing, what you end up enjoying the most, right? Certainly, one thing that is true of most of the ground vehicles, I think the tank was the most expensive at 105, if I remember correctly, but most of them are fairly cheap. And so it's not unreasonable to assume that in between the now and then, as we are moving towards these things being viable and moving towards the point in the game where money counts and we can purchase these things in game, you may reach a point where, depending on what ships that you have, that you can just go ahead and buy these things for in-game credits and it doesn't really matter, right? So this is one area where I would say maybe basically enable yourself with a Dragonfly and wait and see how things shake out. Anyways, that has been an entire week of ship updates. I hope you guys enjoyed these episodes. Apparently you did. And yeah, I'll see you Monday.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.